I'm now at what is reputed to be the busiest intersection in the world. This is in Shibuya, Tokyo. And there the Starbucks coffee, which we'll go up to, is reputed to have the highest gross of any Starbucks coffee shop. This is also the mecca for shopping primarily for youth. But also here is where you will meet someone, if this is the area you're going to meet in, at the Hachiko statue. This was put up by the locals who knew this dog. Back in the 1920s, a Professor Ueno, who would leave for work every day and then return at this station. The dog would wait for him patiently every afternoon, but he died, the man. And then 11 years later, after waiting patiently every single day for his master to return, which he didn't, this dog died. A movie was made on the same theme, but I don't recall what the movie's name. Here's some Hachiko whimsy. Not as jammed as it would probably be tonight, or certainly on the weekend tomorrow, Sunday. Well, the bike culture still exists here, and you can see that there are occasionally baby seats on these bikes. I'm just kind of wandering down here since I came to Shibuya. I need to wander around a bit. You wonder if these little places here are just little tinged homes, probably much nicer inside, as evidenced by that mirror shining through and those decorative wall lights. I just climbed up these stairs because they were here and seemed to be somewhat of an anomaly. A little park where, a little skateboard park, which is curious here, but good for kids if they live in this area, I suppose. And that also looks like it might have served as a park, so it's not terribly inviting. It even invites English-speaking people, and you do pay to use this. Even as sparse as it is, it's neatly kept, and considering probably the high traffic it gets, nicely maintained and probably inviting once the weather makes the trees blossom out a bit more. The facility is built on top of a car park. I think that's an original American company. Didn't think there were any record companies around anymore, but apparently so. I saw this little park and just thought I'd wander over and take a look at it just because it was here, Mitaki Park, which is ironical a bit for me because that's where I'll go in a few days to Mitaki outside of Tokyo and go hiking. Everywhere there are bathrooms, which is nice. A pretty tree next to this basketball court. Any little park, even a little tiny one like this, is a lovely respite in a congestion jammed city like Tokyo. This is interesting just because it's a complete large tract of land that's not built on yet, but it was once. Everything's been demoed. A little bit of architecture tucked away up there. Look at this dome-shaped, cylindrical dome-shaped, what probably is an apartment unit. Looks like someone's laundry hanging out. And that circular area looks pretty. As I expect, everything in Japan is done neatly. You don't see a lot of trash. I'm just wandering down back streets here, looking for something novel, and so far I'm not really seeing it. Almost everywhere the vending machines invite you to pay up and drink. And usually there's a whole bank of them. Something that identifies somebody's house and their mailbox. A little insight into the construction methods of Japanese buildings, at least relatively small ones. Very well finished wood pieces and held together by what looked to be either bolts or large screw bolts. Looks like those are through bolts somehow, and land beams. The first overall impression I get is it's not the junk timber that we use. It's warped and rough. Very finished grade lumber, almost as though they were kits. Interesting is that there are several police type traffic control people on the street and controlling traffic on that obstructed street. Even on these back streets are some small, what look like very upscale boutique shops. This is a very interesting entryway. I wanted to walk down here because it just looked like there's a little residence down here in the midst of this cluster of high-rises and apartment units, etc. Here's the parking solution. I guess it's optional. You can choose to do this or not. I think these buildings are just tucked in wherever there's now room or been room. Pretty tree. This just looks like a quaint little sub-neighborhood of shops, probably surrounded by deeply nested residences of some sort. And it may actually be, I'm thinking it is, a center for outdoor shops or companies like Patagonia and North Face. Interesting piece of architecture. These look like residences all through here, where I assume, like elsewhere in the world, there are quiet spaces on the interior somewhere with a little yard or courtyard. Skull candy that makes earbuds, sound systems. Also look at this piece of architecture. And now I'll work my way back towards Shibuya intersection. The street I came up in 2 moments ago is parallel to it. I just walked down one of the side alleys. I think I've just made a loop back to that little park, unless it's just a similar little park. Can't tell for sure. This is a different little park, but I gotta be getting close because there's the train. I do remember seeing that dome-shaped building, at least that quarter section of it. And there's the Tower Records that I'd seen earlier, so I'm going to go back down the stairs to street level, walk underneath the railroad, and continue over in that direction. Notice how they've squirreled this narrow building in on that little plot of land. This is a tall tower, thin tower if you will, filled with men's fashions, young men's fashions, very young. And the wild, what I would call punk stuff, if that's an appropriate word for it. But women's stuff apparently also. 109 men's. Impressive piece of architecture. This must be one of the early electrical trams. I don't even know if they have any such thing anymore in Tokyo. So this is a picture that shows probably one of those early trams. That's dated 1885 and it also has a date of 1920 on it.